Hello everyone, welcome to Lush and Salty Aquariums. My name is Stefan. Thank you so much for coming to the channel. Okay, we're in front of the ADA Boring 60H Cube Aquarium. That's what they call them. Cube Garden, I believe, is the branding name. But it's an ADA glass box, a little bit higher than a 20 gallon, so you get those extra gallons in height, which is pretty cool. Makes a really nice shape atop of this dresser, where, as I've said every time I film this tank, where my TV would go if I was the sort of guy who had a man cave and watched a lot of sports, etc., etc. But I'm not that guy. I'm a nerd, a fish nerd, to be more precise. So in the scheme of nerds, my exact phylum is Nerdicus fishicus. And I'm also crazy, a little bit nuts here. But I wanted to talk to you, speaking about being a little bit nuts, about my biggest problem with this aquarium. My biggest problem with this aquarium is me. It's not that I'm my own worst enemy. Lord knows I have been that. But it's not that severe a problem. But it is a mental... it's kind of like a brain freeze or something. When I've been looking at this tank, I keep wanting to fiddle with it. I keep wanting to put my hands in the tank, as my default slogan goes. Always keep your hands in the tank. But as I live and learn, obviously one must do that carefully. We don't want to always be putting our hands in the tank, but I can't help myself. But yet I have to help myself, because frankly there's nothing wrong with this aquarium. In many respects it's doing fabulous, but it's not doing fabulous to my choreography. Certain things aren't growing as fast as other things. Certain things aren't behaving the way I want them to behave. Certain things look a little bit askew, a little funky to my eye. Now bear in mind, I look at this aquarium more than any other because it's directly in front of me. There's the chair, there's Elmo. As you know, I had to put down our other dog a couple weeks ago, Beauregard, and I made a bit of a eulogy type post about that. Come on, Elmo, turn around. Jesus, I'm filming him and we're looking at his butt. There you go. Cute little dog, right? But in any event, that's the chair I sit in, and this is the tank that's right at my eye line. So if I look up from my computer, I see this. Now if I turn my head right, I see that. And if I turn my head left, I see all of this. Well, that one, the light is off. First light off as the automatic timers begin to do their thing. But clearly this one is front and center, so I'm staring at it the most. And because I'm just a little bit crazy, I start to churn about this fish tank. So I talked about my issues in a super general sense, but let me get into specifics. Where to begin? Okay, you see these three stems right there? 1, 2, 3. That is mermaid weed. What an awesome, outstanding plant. People don't keep it as much as, I'm surprised, because it's really beautiful. It sort of has those tooth-like leaves, the way a Hygrophila pinnafatida does. And it has a bit of the color the way a Ludwigia does. It's super slow growing, which for some people would be a real bonus with a stem plant. so you don't have to always be trimming and cutting and doing that sort of thing. I mean, this is a really slow growing creature as a motorcycle zooms by in the distance. So the dilemma I have is that naked space, which I wanted the mermaid weed to be in front of, has the print on demand pothos plant holder. You can see all of it. How beautiful is that? And I'm down with it. It's doing its job. You see an incredible year and a half, maybe longer, root ball that's in that little, I'm going to the side here because it's really only about an inch and some change deep. But it kind of looks like crap. I mean, there's no other way to say it. So I wanted it to be obscured by some form of plant. So the mermaid weed is taking forever and a day. I've only trimmed it once in about 3 months. And I cut the 3 tops and planted those, and the remaining bottom portions are still in the ground there, so good luck with that. I'll probably be dead by the time those things reach the top of the water. In any event, it's clearly not going to be obscuring this kind of gnarly acrylic box anytime soon. So one of my beloved watchers goes by the name of Morning Driftwood, which I think is a hellacious fun name. She suggested I move some of the cryptocorn balancea, which is this lovely plant, from one of my other tanks and move it to the back there so it will take over. So behind the mermaid weed, I put in a few small plantlets from the balancea, and it's starting to get its footing and grow out. So in a sense, I'm waiting to see which of these plants becomes the most awesome, the most dominant, the right plant for that spot. And I'm an impatient man. I know once the balancea gets going, I'm just gonna fiddle a little bit, trying to get some of these. Once that plant gets going, it really starts to flourish. But that hasn't really happened yet. It's definitely anchored in, rooted, and starting to grow, because I didn't even see those leaves a month ago. So I think it's gonna win in the tortoise and the hare between those two species. And then I'll have the high class problem of either moving the mermaid weed or trying to see if there's enough room in the room for both of them. But right now, it just is bugging the crap out of me. I don't know what to tell you. And those are the sorts of things that you think over the years, just as being a human being on planet Earth with all the frustrations and chaos, that I'd learn something about patience, counting to 10, all that stuff. And I have. And part of the therapy for my own brain is to talk to you about it. I don't know which of those two plants is gonna win. I mean, the mermaid weed looks so cool, and if only it would, those 3 stems are right up to the top, I'd be a happy camper. And the balancea, you know, whatever, I would prefer that mermaid weed to be the dominant background plant there. Another example is my foreground. It's never been a true carpet. It's a chaotic jumble of various plants, often in violation of some of the more common quote unquote rules of the hobby. For example, this bacopa to the right, that's a super tall plant. How awesome is that? The bottom is as healthy as the top. You can't always say that about stem plants. It grows really true and erect like a great tree, you know, straight up. It doesn't flow, it's strong and stiff against the current, and then, you know, the outflow is right there behind it. So while it sways a little bit here and there, it stays true. The violation is that you're not really supposed to put plants that are taller than everything else right in front for some pretty obvious reasons: depth, aesthetics, you know, what we as human beings view as organized or in sync. Now, I don't mind that there, it's not really bugging me that much, but it sets a tone for just what the hell am I doing at the bottom here. I've got Crypticorn parva, that lovely little group of plants right there, the smallest crypt, I believe, in the hobby, maybe the world, but in the hobby for sure. I think you see a couple mystery snails. Kind of fun how the white one or the ivory one has all that blue-green algae on it. I don't like the way that looks, to be honest with you, but the snail seems pretty happy. And a couple Panda Coreodoras snooting around. There must be an algae wafer down there, which is why all 4 of them are there. I did put some in a while back. But where's the rhyme or reason to this foreground? This is a lovely group of Blixa japonica, not the easiest plant in the world to grow, and I'm delighted it's doing well in here. But you got really tall, you've got this, then you've got kind of a ramble of Crypticorn parva, perhaps some smaller crypts that have crept in from the background. You can see some moss growing through the cavern there toward the front. Then some Sturgeon repens, those couple of stems there, and then the crypt parva here. So WTF? I mean, sometimes I look at this and I love the organized chaos. That's one of my favorite phrases to describe a jungle aquarium. And sometimes I just wish either there was nothing there at all, you know, just the classic bare sand, or, you know, even Steven kind of a foreground. And sometimes I just want to keep adding plants. Like if I'm going to have a chaotic foreground, you know, let's go all in on it. Oh, and the centerpiece plant, how could I forget this dwarf tiger lotus, red tiger lotus. It's doing great, but it's yet another kind of wah, 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 wah. I mean, it's so zigzaggy. There's absolutely no rhyme or reason to what I've got going in terms of an aquascape. Far from the original hardscape when I set it in. This was one of the first tanks I set up. So way back into my videos, you could see the hardscape, and it was so badass. This, you see all the Christmas moss or flame moss affixed against that bogwood, totally grown in around it. At this point, I just pull all those tendrils off. I cannot destroy that moss now. It's completely a part of this ecosystem, which is great because I can just pull it off with my fingers, and in a few weeks it's back to like this again. But that hardscape was so cool looking, and now I don't even see it. I mean, the Anubias that I planted somewhere down toward the bottom, I mean, look what it's done to that particular part of the hardscape. It's now just this intense organism of Anubias leaves and lovely flowers. I mean, I love that. I love all of it in and of itself, but it kind of competes with the tiger lotus. I mean, what's the feature here? Where does your eye go? Does it even matter? Obviously, it doesn't really matter. The fish seem happy. The plants are happy. They're doing what they want to do. And I guess that's sort of the point to this particular film is, does it really matter what I want to do versus what the plants and the fish want to do? I mean, we need to strike a balance. I mean, balance is one of the buzzwords in this hobby, establishing a healthy ecosystem. Well, I'm a part of the ecosystem too, gosh darn it. And I would love to just have a little bit more rhyme or reason to this aquarium. I mean, the intense amount of different fish in here, well, I love them all, but sometimes I have this hankering for just one or two schooling fish. But over time, I couldn't decide on the SB rasboras, the Sabwa resplendens, or rummy nose rasbora. Look at that beautiful slate with the red nose. I've got some golden barbs, this not gold barbs, but these small sort of, I'm not getting their common name right, but they're a nano barb, lovely little fish. Why are they in here? Because I liked them. I made a purchase. I had technically the real estate where I could accommodate them. Black Phantom Tetras. There's a reddish hued one, but that's a Black Phantom. And there's a group of those. So there's no lone fish in here. They all have their brothers and sisters and cousins, and nieces and nephews. I mean, I don't keep one of any fish except for the honey gourami, which is happy being a solo act. Does not need friends to be happy, or at least we'll never know for sure, but that's what they say. I can't ask him. I can't even find him right now, but he's in there and he's happy. Maybe by the end of the video we'll see him. And that's another thing. I mean, that fish is gold and flame colored, and I don't even see him. To show you, you know, to give you an example of the jumble, the intense amount of plants, the cacophony. There's a $10 word. In other words, just the vast array of fish going every which way. There's a mystery snail. Actually, that's not a mystery snail. That's a nearite. No, maybe it isn't. Oh God, Stefan. Well, I hope you're not taking notes, because this is sort of a clown show in terms of me having my being on point. But it is fun to share about some of my... There's the honey gourami. See him back there? Left. Got a nice round belly, but I know it's a male. So, what else can I... Oh, Ludwigia repens. Gorgeous looking plant. You can see why I love it, but I mean, look at the uneven. I mean, I wanted them to all be uniform, but one plant grew faster than another for various reasons, positioning in the tank, toward the light, etc. And now I have this sort of U, and that's bogus. I mean, that isn't aesthetically beautiful. It's not in sync. And, you know, I mean, I could... The thing is, if I get in there with my shears and try to even it all out, it'll be sort of like that cartoon where I know it, I've cut everything down to the quick and ruined it all. I mean, that's the reason why I'd rather be making this video than sticking my hands in the tank right now. I'm sort of afraid of what I might do. I might make matters worse, and nature will always correct my mistakes, but sometimes, a lot of times, especially in this aquarium, not fast enough. Cypress helferi, this gorgeous Vallisneria looking like plant. Do not sleep on this. It is an awesome alternative to Val. I mean, look at that lush, intense carpet. I mean, drapes, to use a better home decor metaphor. Looks more like a curtain than a carpet. There's nothing I can say bad about this plant. It doesn't grow all over the place. It stays dense. It stays green top to bottom. It needs to be more popular. And that brings me to a point. I mean, I'm gonna do a little segue here. I think the right half of the tank has its own vibe, deep, rich textures, the bacopa in the very front, the cryptocorn right behind it, some anubias petite growing up, the bogwood that's, you know, draped by anubias, and then the helphery in the back there, just layered and textured. And then I've got this kind of haphazard assemblage of plants in, you know, different heights and different depths, and it's just all different, and this is all uniform. Most people would be thrilled to have all this sort of bucephalandra, and Lord knows I am. It took a minute after I cleared out some of the fast-growing leggy rotala back in, you know, almost a year ago at this point. It was all up and in the mid section of the left-hand side of this tank, and it obscured the boost, and the boost always kind of did fair to even maybe less than fair. But once I clear cut that forest of rotala, the light penetration just did wonders for the bucephalandra down here. And even it is flowering. You can see the bud right there. So the dealio is each plant in and of itself is doing great. Each fish in and of itself is doing great. But the symphony is a little too modern and chaotic. At least that's the fear I had in my head. I'm kind of fishing here. I'm hoping you'll chime in and say, Stefan, don't be a numbnuts. This thing is awesome. I wish I had your problems. I mean, I'm looking for some validation, some support, so that I don't do anything reckless and get in here with my shears and try to fix, manage, and control. Fix, manage, and control. That is such a human nature problem. It's pretty much the reason for a lot of our problems. You know, we want to fix, manage, and control. Well, nature, all the other animals tend to just fall into a great pattern, a great system. Whereas we human beings, because we know so much, we think we can do better if we meddle, if we just put our hands in the tank, as it were. And this hobby, you know, at its best, teaches us when to do that and when not to do that. And I'm right at the precipice. I feel like if I weren't filming this video, I'd literally be in there and I'd either commit to the mermaid weed or the crypt behind it and pull one out, and then what would I do? Or I'd mow down all these foreground plants, pull them out, and try to make a uniform front. And I think in principle that would be awesome, but dollars to donuts, a week from now I'd be starting to plant again down there. I love planting. Now there'd be plants right here if that tiger lotus wasn't blocking all the light. Now that tiger lotus is awesome, so I'm okay with it blocking the light. Now you see, if that was all a beautiful uniform sand bottom right in front, that particular problem would not exist. I would just have a uniform and lovely, even, serene foreground, and these big, fat, beautiful red leaves could do whatever they please. I mean, this puke green algae on that mystery snail. Thank God that algae's nowhere in this tank except for on that shell. But kind of ugly. No offense, Mr. Snail, but yeah, pretty tacky looking coat you've got on there. Here's another high-class problem. This Anubias bunch here, I did a bunch of trimming to try to, because it was really off the chain. There was just leaves there, and I cut a whole bunch of them. But already since that, you see these two lighter green? Those are brand new, that's brand new growth. But it doesn't look right. My tent temptation is to cut the very thing we value most, new growth. Of course, I'm not going to do that. I'm stupid, but I'm not a fool. Whatever the hell that means. But even that kind of vexes me. Like, why couldn't that new growth be somewhere else? You can see the rhizome. I had cut a whole bunch that was sticking up and out, just cut it back so it wasn't hitting the glass, which is a kind of another bozo no-no. You don't want your plants or your scape to be pushing up against the glass in most cases. Certain aquascapes, they literally build right up into the glass, but you know, by and large, you want to keep some free and clear space so that you can, first of all, clean the glass of algae, etc. But those two leaves, beautiful, healthy, sign of a, you know, happy plant, but it kind of mucks up the symmetry, if you know what I'm saying. And you know, when you finally get your moss to be so ingrained into the driftwood, I mean, everybody's gluing and using threads, you know, hoping for the day where they don't have to worry about it. And I'm at that day and have been. And now I'm trying to, you know, decide how much of a haircut I should give it after spending a year and a half to get it to this point. Well, I'm glad you allowed me to keep my hands out of the tank and make this film for you. If any of the ideas I put out there sound reasonable, let me know, because I could be convinced. I'm very easy to manipulate. And the timer clicked off. You see my reflection. You see all the fish schooling in their nighttime, immediately showing a different color scape. Anyway, thank you for indulging me. As always, folks, keep your hands in the tank, albeit carefully, and ciao for now.